Hello, welcome to the class, everyone. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Let me see, I need to turn up my mic a little bit. All right, I hope whatever I did is working. Um, Hi, my name is Dr. Susanna Bair. I'm a professor of economics and a teacher of meditation. Um, my specialization in economic theory, some of you might know, is Marxism. So that means I study communism and socialism and capitalism and slavery and things like this. Um, I've been meditating for a long time. I grew up with meditation and been studying and practicing for many years. So they say that when you're doing a presentation, you should start with a joke. Um, but before I do that, I just want to say there's been a lot of rumors going around, that I look like Gandalf, and just want to say that's not true. Um, I am at least half human, and I have a normal human lifespan. I'm in my early 400s, so hmm. All right. Well, anyway, I don't get much feedback from this kind of venue, so I don't know if those jokes are hitting or not. But what I want to do during this class is share meditation with you just to start with. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about philosophy and approach and things like this, goals of meditation, stuff like this. Um, but I want to do that in the framework of a little bit of practice first, and then we'll come back and try again. And um, so I don't know what people's background with meditation is on here. Uh, but one of the really important things for meditation is breathing, right? So we're doing a style of meditation here. This is heart rhythm meditation that really emphasizes the breath and not wanting to just let the breath do what it's going to do, right? I mean, we have this wonderful fact as human beings, right, which is that we don't have to think about our breathing, right? Our breathing, it can happen whether we're thinking about it or not, right? But thank God, right? Um, but if we do think about it, we can change our breathing, and this changes ourselves at a very fundamental level, because breath is life, right? So breath is the source of life, and on a very fundamental level, it represents the energy flow that is happening within us and our energetic exchange with the life around us. So, if we want to change ourselves, the basic insight for meditation is change your breath, right? So I want to just keep that in mind as we're doing our first practice, okay? Um, so the before we can even do that, we need to get into a posture which is going to be suitable for breathing and for meditation is like a unique blend of activity and relaxation, right? I mean, if we wanted total relaxation, we lay down and go to sleep, right? But on the other hand, we're not really active in the sense of like, we're not going to be moving. We're sitting still, right? So, y- but we want to have an active yet relaxed posture, all right? And the best way to do that is to sit in a way that is very straight and upright, and yet as relaxed as you can be within that container, all right? So the I'm sitting in a chair right now. Most of the time when I meditate, I use that's what I use. Um, so I don't know if you guys can see my chairs. This is just a regular chair. I have like a little cushion on here. Actually, you can't really see the whole thing, right? It's just a regular chair. I, but I'm sitting on this cushion just to like give me a little bit more, just to give me a little bit more height. I messed up my whole setup. All right. Just to give me a little bit more height, so that what I want is for my hips to be at least the level of my knees or slightly above. All right. That's going to make it possible to sit in a way that, allows the spine to be upright. um, and doesn't require a lot of muscular exertion, right? If your knees are higher, you can sit straight, but it's going to be like you're going to be like, working your back the whole time to do that. So, right, get your seat at the proper height, and adjust yourself and whatever. If you as if you're sitting on the floor using a cushion, that's fine too. Um, but you don't need that. Um, so once you have your posture, you're going to just close your eyes and focus on your breathing. So feel the breath come in and feel the breath go out. So this is a cornerstone of meditation. Nearly all forms of meditation involve focusing on the breath. Now, there's actually two forms of breathing that we are capable of doing as human beings. One is called diaphragmatic, it involves breathing deep in your belly. And the other one is called thoracic, and that is breathing high, like in your chest, using your intercostal muscles to breathe. So we want to focus on deep breathing, on abdominal breathing. So just take your hand and let it rest on your belly as you're sitting, right? And just feel your belly rising and falling, right? And you'll know when you know when you're breathing in your belly because you're going to feel that movement of your hand, all right? Rising and falling. Now I'd like you to take your other hand and place that on your chest, all right? So we've got the one hand down on the belly and the other hand on the chest. And just feel yourself breathing. Now you might notice that particular feelings or emotions or sensations arise here because you're quite literally holding yourself now, right? Energy uh, goes through our arms and into our hands, right? We're used to doing things. When we do things with our hands, right, that energy flows through them. So by placing them back on ourselves, we're doing something rather profound. We are directing attention towards ourselves and towards the breath, and also on another level toward our inner life. Oh, breath is life, breath is energy. And wouldn't you like to have more of that life, more of that energy, more of that vitality, more of that power and grace? And you can do that by breathing more. Now, your breath is in a certain balance. So, in order to breathe more, we have to change that balance. So we like to do that by as you're breathing out, just breathe out more than you normally do. Tighten the abdominal muscles, draw the stomach in as you breathe out, and then inhale. When you get to the end of your exhalation and you inhale, you feel your lungs. Try to make your breath slow. Try to feel it still being deep in your belly. All right, we'll take a little break there. We'll end our that practice for now. I hope you're able to feel something happening here. Um, and I want to just talk a little bit about my approach to meditation, and a little bit philosophically. So this kind of meditation I mentioned is this heart rhythm meditation. This comes out of Sufism. That's the tradition that I was born into and raised in and studied and so on. Um, and there's a lot of different practices within Sufism. Sufism is the mystical side of Islam. You know, uh, I think pretty much every religion has its kind of outer side, right? It's visible rituals and so on, and then it has a kind of inner or hidden or esoteric side. And for like for Christianity, that would be like the Gnostics, for example, or for in Judaism, there's the study of the Kabbalah, um, and in Islam, there's Sufism, um, and there's I mean, I could go on and on, right? But so the the point is these inner traditions focus on the inner journey, right? And use meditation as a tool of building a direct relationship with God, the universe, reality, emptiness, right? It's described in various ways, but with the unity of all being, you could say. So this is the what I consider to be the point of meditation, or the goal of meditation, right? It's to understand who you are, right? To understand your own individuality, first of all, right? And then secondly, to understand the nature of the life around you, right? Um, what is the nature of the universe? What is the nature of reality? How does this life work, right? uh, now you would think that it would be difficult to get that from kind of sealing yourself off from life, right? Because it seems like that's what you're doing when you meditate, right? You're not going out there and doing stuff, right? You're sitting alone in a room quietly, right? Um, but and so that's a paradox, right? That this, it's often, we go out there and have more experiences. That's great. That's very stimulating, very important. Um, but does it help us to understand that deeply? Maybe not, right? I mean, it's kind of like if somebody says something, if you don't have time to think about it, you might not really take it in, right? you know, you need time to think about it, right, in order to learn something in a lot of cases, right? So that's meditation, right? The learning about yourself, who am I, and learning about the nature of the universe. And then there's what's the relationship, right? What is the relationship between you and life? So as you go through the inner journey, of course, these things all change, right? So your understanding of yourself changes, and your understanding of life itself changes too, and the relationship itself then changes. So this is what I think of as the point of meditation, and that's a kind of broad view, right? I mean, like, gosh, that sounds kind of vague, Um, but okay. So, and the reason it's vague is because there's a lot of different ways that meditation can be tuned, or um, can be tailored, let's say, to like your particular needs at this time, right? Um, so something to keep in mind. Now, I want to talk a little bit too about the state of meditation, or what we are cultivating here as an experience, or as like a state of consciousness. All right. Um, so the I want to talk just a little bit about the states of consciousness as I understand them. All right. Um, Now, these go in order. All right. So, you can go through states quickly, but you can't really skip them. You one goes to the next. Okay. So let's just start where a lot of times we are, right? And that is, our mind is just kind of free floating, right? Um, you could call this like, stage zero. So, you're just kind of, thoughts are passing, and you're not making any particular attempt to focus your mind, right? Um, this can be nice. This can be quite relaxing. This is like daydreaming on in a beautiful meadow or something like this, right? It's nice, especially when the setting is nice, right? So, um, and your mind can just kind of relax, right? Um, of course, the problem is that your mind doesn't always stay relaxed, right? Your mind might be thinking of things that you like thinking about, right? But sooner or later, you're going to hit something that you don't like thinking about, right? And you might fixate on that. You might get sort of stuck on that, right? So, I want to say this is always like a great pleasurable thing. A lot of times it's not. Um, Okay, so the next state that I want to talk about is focusing your mind. Right, this is concentration. Um, in the Yoga Sutras, one of these old texts on meditation, this is called dharana. Um, so focusing the mind, and this is always considered to be a foundational step in every form of meditation. Right. Um, Now, it's hard to make generalizations. There are some forms where you do this free floating thing, this step zero type of thing, right? Um, this is like say exception to every rule, right? But so almost every kind of meditation that we think of, there's going to be an act of focusing your mind, right? Sometimes it might be on an object. It might be on a picture. Right? It might be on listening to somebody else talk. It might be on the flame of a candle or something like this, right? Um, it might be on a scripture of some kind, or a teaching. So focusing the mind. Now, this is a pretty fundamental skill, right? I mean, this is applicable to lots of things besides meditation. I mean, there's if you know how to focus your mind, that's a very very good skill to have, right? That's very very important. Um, this is a skill that we learn in school, and that we learn in lots of different settings, right? Because you need to be able to concentrate to basically accomplish almost anything, right? Um, and you might have been able to tell the difference between like a task that you're trying to complete, and you're sort of not really thinking about it, right? You're thinking about lots of other things or whatever, right? um, and that's probably going to end up messing it up, right? I mean, that's because if you don't focus on something, it doesn't tend to work as well than if you do. But concentration is hard, right? Concentration, your mind doesn't want to concentrate. Your mind like resists that. Like the minute you start to, the Sufis say like that, your mind is like a wild horse. That's their metaphor, right? So it's like the minute you try to put a saddle on it, the horse goes crazy. It starts to, buck you off, and like your mind doesn't think about anything else besides this, right? Because you're limiting your mind, right? I mean, like, Your mind, when it's in its free floating state, it's like, I could think about anything, right? But when you concentrate, you're like, no, I'm going to focus on this one thing right now, right? And so a part of your mind is always like, what about all those other things, right? A fear of missing out, you know? All right. So a lot of what you learn in meditation is how to concentrate because that is so important, right? It's like the beginning lesson, right? How to concentrate. So partly like what I just went through with you guys, having a good posture, right? A good posture helps you to concentrate because it reduces the overall strain on you physically, right? If you have poor posture, it's gonna hurt to sit still eventually, right? Um, or it's not going to be energetic enough. Okay, so you want this sense of energy because you're actually trying to do something here that is difficult, right? And we want to just acknowledge that, right? Like focusing your mind is difficult, and that makes meditation starts with that, right? So that makes meditation difficult. Okay. Now this is not the end of meditation at all, right? This is the beginning. But this gets a lot of attention, and a lot of times, like there's a very popular word, right? Mindfulness. So mindfulness is it means a couple of things, right? But it definitely means this too, right? It means being mindful of something, right? Focusing on something, focusing your mind, being aware of something. Okay. So, all right, let me talk about what comes next then, right? The next statement. And remember, you have to concentrate first before you can get to this one. Okay. The next one is called dhyana in the Sanskrit, and it's so we call it contemplation. It's the state of flow, right? It happens when you have focused so intensely on something, and then there's a kind of moment where you I mean, it's called flow because it kind of carries you along, right? I mean, it's like you go from oh my god, I'm trying to paddle and get this going, right? Get the current going, and then all of a sudden the river starts carrying you along, right? And you're like, wow, this feels great. This doesn't feel like work. It feels quite easy. That's fantastic. So now this might be an experience that you may not have had, or if you've had it, it's more rare, right? Like this zero free floating thought thing that I talked about. That's common, right? Everybody's had that. And focusing your mind, concentration, common, right? I mean, everyone's experienced that. The state of flow, less common, right? I hope you've experienced it. I hope that there's some activity. Now, it might not be meditation, right? There might be some other activity where these are the marks of the state. Okay, the mark of the state is you are you're very very present, right? So you're very focused on what you're doing, but it no longer feels like what a chore, right? It feels like you are just in the zone, right? That's a phrase that's used to describe this same state, right? A phrase that comes out of sports, right? I think. I mean, I don't know where any of these phrases come from initially, but right. So you're concentrating, and then you get into this flow state, and it feels easy instead of hard, right? It feels like you're just swept along with it, right? Um, but you're not getting distracted. Your mind is not drifting off. You're still very focused, and there's also a lot of a sense of enjoyment that arises at this time, right? So I don't know if this is resonating. Hopefully this makes sense. But we again in meditation we want to cultivate this. We want to be aware of these states, right? Because that's part of it. That's part of like what we're doing on a training level, right? Meditation is it's an activity, right? And it's also a training. So it's something that we are trying to train ourselves to do, right? And that's part of the skill that we're trying to cultivate, right? This ability to enter these different states. All right. Now the third one is more subtle and more rare, and just a lot more powerful too. And in in the Sanskrit, this was called samadhi. You could call it the state of meditation, or I like the phrase the state of unity. That's the phrase that I like. Now, this has been, again, it's been written of in many, many different spiritual traditions. Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Sufism. The Taoism. I mean, and it's described in different ways sometimes, but it's the same thing that is being described, right? This is the state that feels unlimited, all right? Unlimited. So there's different aspects, there's different ways that we could experience. I mean, what does that even mean, right? Unlimited. I mean, that word is described by something it's not, right? I mean, unlimited, right? I mean, that means limited not, right? So here's the thing, right? Mostly what we know, being humans and going through life, mostly what we know is there's a lot of limitations on us, right? I mean, you know, we have limited physical strength, we have limited perception. I mean, it just goes on and on, right? Um, we have limited energy, we have limited time, limited money. I mean, everything that we know basically is limited, right? So, what is unlimited, right? I mean, what is that, right? It's something that fascinates us, uh, because there's a part of us that's always like at a war with our limitation, right? So there's different ways to conceive of what is this unlimited experience. What does that mean, right? Well, we could experience it, for example, as unlimited time, right? And it's a very, very common way to experience this state, okay, this state of samadhi or state of meditation, to experience timelessness, to have a sense within yourself that I have always been and I will always be, right? Now, that is mind blowing, right? I mean, that's an extraordinarily different from how we normally feel, right? Normally, we're like, oh, what time is it? I hustle, never have enough time, or I'm bored, I have too much time, or like this, right? So unlimited time, right? Or maybe you feel a sense of just incredible vastness. You feel unlimited space, right? Your body might start to feel different, right? You have a sense of like, okay, here's my body, right? When you close your eyes in meditation, you're not moving. You start to kind of lose track of that, right? And you might start to feel like your body is like just, as big as the universe, right? The amazing, a mind-blowing kind of feeling, right? Um, and there's many other examples that I could give, right? That um, uh, involve that infinite, right? There's the unlimited, the infinite, the perfect. That is the experience of meditation, and it's an experience that just blows you away. Absolutely blows you away. I mean, it is astounding. Okay, so in Sufism, the word that they use to describe this is fana. All right. Now that's a word that means annihilation. Because I mean, like I'm saying, right? These are this experience that just blows you away, right? You so now why would we want that, right? That doesn't sound necessarily all that good, right? Well, we need to understand this, right? We need to experience this in order to understand the nature of reality, right? Because here's the thing we know, right? Reality is a lot bigger than our own individual limited self. Um, and yet we want to understand that, right? I mean, like, haven't you ever had something happen to you and you said, why did that happen? I wish that hadn't happened, right? Or I wish so much that this would happen, right? Or whatever it is, right? um, so we know that the life outside of us is much bigger, more vast, and so on, right? And we want to experience that, right? I mean, like, I think this is part of what brings us to art and music and film and whatever else, right? It's like we want to be more. to experience more than just our limited selves, right? We already know what it is to, like, I know what it is already to be me. I want to know what it is to be somebody else, right? I want to know what it is to experience life in a different way or two, right? So this is a gives us a kind of a map, right, of the different kind of states that can occur. Now, this is a rare thing to experience. Sometimes it happens spontaneously. It's not none of this is limited to meditation, right? It could happen to you. Sometimes people have this, they're sitting in the bathtub or something like this, right? And all of a sudden, oh my God, I feel connected. I feel one with everything. That can happen, right? Because this is a very real state, right? Uh, and But what are we trying to do with meditation? A seed can be blown through the air, and it can just happen to land on the right patch of earth, and then a plant can grow out of that, right? That's true, that happens. But you're going to have better luck if you cultivate that piece of ground, right? Give it turn over the soil and fertilize it, and aerate it, and then plant the seed and carefully watch over it, and whatever, right? That's what meditation is, right? We don't want just this random thing to happen, or maybe not, right? I mean, lots of people go through their life and never have that experience, right? We want to prepare the ground. We want to make it possible, as much as we can, to experience that state, right? Okay, so returning back to the topic of, now that we've discussed some philosophy here, um, coming back to the question of how do we go about it, right? So far we talked about making your breath conscious, right? That is being aware of it. We've talked about the importance of having that good upright posture, um, and making your breath deep, right? So making sure that your belly is expanding and contracting as you're breathing. So this is very important, uh, because one of the things that happens to us, are we get stressed and our breathing gets tight and gets high, right? It's kind of high in our chest. So by putting that hand on the belly, we can remind ourselves, right? Let's breathe down here. And this actually has very profound effects on your nervous system. It triggers what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, a part of your autonomous nervous system. Um, and this is the relaxation response, as it's been called. All right. So let's go a little bit further. All right. Let's do another little session of practice here. And so take your nice upright posture and just pay attention to the line of your body. All right. And just make sure that it's straight, right? Like you're not tilting your head to one side or the other, right? You're not putting your head too far forward or too far back or something like this, right? So you just try to line yourself up, okay, right over your sits bones. And you turn your attention to your breath. And I've talked about changing your breath versus not changing it, right? If you don't change your breath, you're probably going to remain in a sort of low energy state, right? So remember, meditation is a mix of being relaxed, but also really focusing, right? We want to concentrate, we want to focus. So we're going to, take an object to focus on, and that is the breath. Breathe in and breathe out. Now I'd like you to really make another intervention in your breathing. That is to notice, is your breath rhythmic? So what I mean by that is that your inhalation and your exhalation are the same length, right? It's very, very common for one side of your breath to be different from the other side. So it might be that you breathe out and breathe out and breathe out, and you spend a lot of time on the exhalation, and then you kind of breathe in real fast. It's very common to have one side of the breath be different from the other. And this is unbalanced, all right? This makes you it means you're leaning on one side more than the other, all right? Your breath is your fundamental exchange of energy with the life around you. So you want that to be balanced in terms of what you are giving out, that's your exhalation, versus what you are taking in, your inhalation. All right, so you're making your breath deep and making your breath rhythmic, making your breath slow. So these are three interventions on the breath, and it takes concentration to maintain that, right? That is, I'm asking you to breathe differently than how you normally breathe. And that's hard to do. I mean, like, try walking differently than how you normally walk, right? I mean, the way that you breathe is a matter of very deep habit. So doing something different is hard, right? But this is actually good because if you're going to be learning how to concentrate, you need something that's a little bit challenging, right? You need something that is the appropriate level of challenge for you. And I hope I've celebrated enough the importance of concentration. We could always be better at concentration. So the other thing that's good about this is by having something that could easily go back to its normal unconscious pattern, right? You know when your mind has drifted off, right? It's a little bit like balancing on a wire, if you've ever done that. Um, like, hey, you know when you've gotten on balance because you fall off the wire. It gives you a good feedback. So same with this practice. Did you stop breathing deeply? Did you get distracted by something? Did you have a thought or a feeling come up? That happens all the time, right? I mean, you start practicing meditation, and one of the first things you learn is, wow, my mind really trying to buck me off right now, right? All right, we'll end our little session, little practice session there. I want to leave a little bit of time for questions if you guys have some. You know, there's a lot more to this method that I'm not able to convey in just one session, but I actually do have an entire course on this, which takes you step by step, and you do like a little bit more each day. It's a very progressive course that lasts 28 days, and it's you did a video for each day. And if you guys are interested in that, I have made the whole thing available on my Patreon page, which I've just released. So excited to do that. So if you guys are interested, you can. I put the link in the description, and you can check it out. Um, so let me know in the chat if you have a question. I did get one earlier that I want to address, um, which is what if meditation makes me feel worse? Um, and that's okay. That happens, right? Um, meditation doesn't always make you feel good. you know, um, that is, that's drugs or something, right? No, I mean, not even drugs always make you feel good, right? I mean, there's such a thing as a bad trip. Um, so, but we're not here to talk about drugs, right? We're here to talk about meditation. Meditation. It's common for meditation to make you feel worse, right? Because I mean, look at this, right? I'm asking you guys to do something difficult, right? I mean, breathe differently, um, do nothing, and breathe differently. Um, it's actually difficult, right? And the reason that we often don't do this is because thoughts and feel difficult thoughts and feelings often come up, right? And you have no place to hide from them in meditation, right? Um, so that's an incredibly common experience. Um, and a lot of people are derailed by it, stop their meditation practice because the difficult stuff starts to come up, right? Um, I mean, this is true in almost any kind of self development thing you could do, right? I mean, it's not going to be enjoyable all the time. That's just the reality. And anyone who says it is not being honest, right? I mean, I I'll tell you guys, I have had some incredibly painful experiences in meditation. Just absolutely, um, some of the most difficult things I've ever experienced. And I would totally do it again. It's the thing, right? Because if you stay with it, and especially if you really learn how to breathe well, right? I mean, what I taught you guys tonight is scratching the surface. Okay. If you really learn how to breathe well, and you're able to breathe in a way that is optimal. Okay. So uh, according to me, right, optimal breathing has 5 characteristics. Okay. So, and we've talked about some of them so far. All right. So we talked about the importance of making your breath slow, right? And making your breath deep, and making your breath rhythmic. Okay. Now, there's another aspect to this, 2 other aspects to this which we haven't touched on. One of them is making your breath heart centered. Okay, and that means feeling that your heart, your center of your being, in the Hindu system, this is called the heart chakra. So the heart as an energetic center contains your entire emotional and spiritual beingness, right? So heart-centered breathing means you breathe in in awareness of, in concentration on your heart. All right. Um, so that's another aspect, right? And the final one that is probably the most difficult of all of these is to make your breath full. All right. That is to make your breath much bigger than it is. You get much more power. Okay. So this is kind of like my full answer to this question, um, of like, what if I have difficult experiences? You will have difficult experiences if you do a lot of meditation. Even if you do a little bit, you might have some difficult experiences. I'll just be honest about that, right? Um, Difficult experiences are an opportunity to grow, right? But you don't want to be thrown off by it, right? So by developing your breath, you give yourself a lot more ability to deal with whatever comes up. I mean, and we all have our stuff, right? Every stuff is always coming up to be dealt with. So, um, right, that's the point of having like a strong training in breathing and the philosophy and stuff that goes along with it. All right. Um, I don't know if people have other questions. Somebody says, "Well, I look like a 19th century economist." Yes, I know. People are always telling me this. I look like Marx. I personally think I look a bit more like Engels, but you know, they're both cool, so I'm fine with that. you guys have uh, you guys have other questions particular to meditation? Um, I do have oh, let's see. Does this heart breath meditation practice specifically come from teaching or book by Pir Vilayat um, or Inayat Khan? Yeah, Inayat Khan. Inayat Khan is the touchstone for my particular tradition of Sufism, um, who taught in it was from India, but taught in Europe and the United States in the early 20th century. So from 1910 to 1927. Um, and yes, so this method comes out of what he taught, the way that he taught meditation. He said, if there's one focus for meditation that you should do, it's uniting your heart with the breath, right? So long tradition in Sufism of um, of heart centered meditation. Now, there's lots of traditions in Sufism, so I'm not going to say that that's the only one. Sufism is an incredibly rich and diverse tradition. I mean, there are just many, many, many practices within it. So there's a lot of variety there. I'm not going to say that I know all of these at all. I've been around meditation a long time, so I've experienced a lot of different things. But um, this is the main thing that I've done, and the main thing that has gotten results for me. Um, if you guys have other questions, um, I have another one that I got earlier about anxiety. I don't know if that's an issue that you guys have or that you deal with. So very, very common, right? Anxiety, is it's like a just super common condition of modern life, right? And anxiety is, of course, a low grade fear, right? That it's like fear is meant to be a signal that keeps us alive, right? Anxiety is like an alarm that won't turn off, and you're like, I get it, okay? There's something bothering me. Um, so, um, we get this. I mean, this happens is because the chronic condition of modern life is stress, right? um, the kind of stress that goes on, right? That doesn't is not attached to just one event, but that becomes like part of our, I don't know, our whole thing, our whole vibe, right? It's being stressed. That's part of it. So, um, anxiety is something that is, this is difficult to deal with. There's no easy answer for that. But one of the things that happens with anxiety is that it makes your breath much worse, right? So remember I talked before about optimal breathing, right? That's breathing in a way that is deep and rhythmic and slow and heart centered and full and all this stuff, right? So breathing badly is the opposite of all this, right? So if you breathe shallowly, not in your belly, but right up in the chest, right? This is one of the things that triggers your body, right, physiologically into a stress response. And that often happens when you feel anxious, right? So you're snowballing here, right? I mean, it's not good because you get anxious, then it messes up your breathing, right? The other thing that happens is arrhythmic breathing. Okay, so I said it's very common to have the inhalation, the exhalation be uneven in some way. It's also very common to have some holding of the breath occur, right? And these things, physiologically, they trigger the stress reaction, they make it worse. So this is the problem, right? The stress triggers the bad breathing, which then is physiologically stressful. So now you've got an additional problem. Like not only are you mentally stressed, but your body is stressed, right? You're getting that physiological stress reaction. And this is a measurable physiological thing. I don't know if you guys know this, but this is called the sympathetic nervous system. This is the fight or flight response. And it's a well-known collection of things, right? Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your body produces cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Um, these are all measurable things that reliably occur. So, I'm going to just suggest, right? One of the best ways to deal with anxiety is to just break that, right? Stop it from snowballing. So you have an anxious thought, notice your breath, right? And really pay attention to your breath and really pay attention to making your breath. If you could just do one thing, right? Make your breath deep in your belly, right? Make sure you're not holding your breath. Make sure your breath is even on the inhalation and exhalation, right? If you do that, you might still feel anxious, but at least you're not going to spiral worse, right? At least you can then just deal with the mental anxiety, right? And not add physiological. It's kind of like, hey, you've got a problem, you got a fire in your kitchen. Don't set a fire somewhere else. That is the first step, to like not make don't make it worse. Okay, so that's my general advice. Now, the stronger your breath gets, the more of an impact it's going to have on you, right? And the less likely it is to be interrupted. Now, and that doesn't mean you'll never feel fear or anxiety, right? Because these are human emotions. We're human beings, but we don't want to like get spiral out, right? That's the thing we want to avoid. All right, I've got another question. Yeah, is this a stream plan to be a regular thing? Yeah, I'm hoping to do this every week at this time. Uh, Interested in approaching anxiety, psychology to meditation. Yeah, very very common. I hope what I've said is helpful. A lot of people deal with anxiety, so it's certainly not alone there. Um, and a lot of people also, I have to say, I've seen a lot of very good results from doing meditation on that in particular. So, um, guys, I don't want the stream to go on too long. I was thinking it would just be 45 minutes, but if there is one more question, I'll take that. Um, all right. Well, as I said, if you're interested in more of a step-by-step approach, check out my Patreon page. Like I said, I have a whole course for you guys there for my patrons. Just released this, so I'm excited about that. Um, and how long have I been teaching for? Let's see. I That's kind of a tough question for me because I've been doing this a long time. It was the first time that I taught. I don't know, probably about like meditation, maybe like 20 years ago or something. So yeah, I mean, my professional career has been various kinds of teaching. I've taught economics and also meditation. So uh, thanks so much for joining me tonight. I hope you all got something from it. Um, I'm going to keep this recording up, so for those who might have missed it, you'll be able to still access that. And anyone who has a question, feel free, like later on or whatever, add a comment to this, and I'll try and get to it, or or hit me up on Twitter. So, all right, well, nice to be with you all, and have a good rest of your evening, and perhaps I'll see some of you all next week. Thank you.